Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans.
Hey friends, this is Truth Lies Shenanigans, the live show for Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. It's 19 days until the election. My name is Neo, and I'd like to apologize to our Facebookers out there. Unfortunately, we're having a problem with the stream on Facebook, but we're going to continue here on YouTube and Twitter. We are live everywhere. I'd like to welcome you all to our deep, fun, and crazy show, Truth Lies Shenanigans. Now let me introduce you to my co-host for the evening. Opposite me, the fashionista and foodie, Miss Liz E.
Happy Hump Day, everyone. How many humps have you guys gotten in today, huh?
Good question. How many humps out? All right, in the window below me, the gamer and IT guru, Mr. Rob B.
Well, happy Wednesday. The day's not over yet, Liz, so there's still a chance for one.
Still time to get some humps in.
All right, guys, for today's show, it's all hot topics. We'll start off with our quickfire question. Then Lizzie will be telling us about Judge Amy Coney Barrett, who made sure we all knew that she adopted black children. Rob B will be saying enough is enough with the pedophiles in the Catholic Church, and I'll be asking why media coverage on Kamala is nothing like Kane Pence 2020. Remember, our streams are live just about everywhere: YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, and we wish it was on Facebook right now.
Tweet.
But we'll get that fixed. Make sure you go to @TLS Live Show, and you can also watch us at truthlieshenanigans.com. And of course, we always love it when you join the conversation. Make sure you invite someone if you can, but make sure you leave your comments and questions in our feeds live on air. We are looking at those YouTube comments and questions. Also, if you miss our live show, you can now listen to previous episodes on iTunes, Spotify. You can even ask Alexa and Siri to simply play Truth Lies Shenanigans podcast.
Siri, play Truth Lies Shenanigans. Yes, Elizabeth Newman.
That's all it takes. All right. Again, we have all hot topics today, but as always, we got to start things off. So let's get to our quick fire question of the day. Now, you got to keep this short and sweet, guys, because we are going to try to post this on our TikTok page. Everyone set? All right. So the question is, where in the world is Melania Trump? All right. So when Donald came down with COVID, she was also diagnosed, but she's been MIA since. But truly, we haven't seen her since the RNC, which is strange since her speech was well received, and it's only 19 days to the election. So what do you guys think is going on? Where is she? Lizzie?
So I think Melania knew that we were going to blow her spot up on today's show and do a worldwide question, where is Melania Trump? We haven't seen or heard from her until today, until what was it, 2 weeks ago? And so today we got a message from the White House saying that she's fine. She's no longer positive for COVID, but now their son, Barron Trump, has COVID. And keep in mind, Donald Trump, in the entire time, in the entire 2 weeks, never once mentioned Melania, never once talked about how she was doing, never once mentioned Barron Trump. All he talked about was me, 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 me. Even wanted to put a Superman costume on to say, look, I have defeated COVID. So what do you think is going on, Rob? Where is Melania really? Where is she really?
That girl's busy having insta fights with side pieces.
Insta fights with side pieces. All right, I got her drafting divorce papers, and I got her filing them on November 4th. That's what I got.
I think she's like Shirley McCavich, the wife of the leader of Scientology, whom we haven't seen in almost a decade. I think Melania is starting to go down that path. Where is Melania? We might have to go save her and free Barron Trump. I've already started the Free Barron Trump campaign. We might have to start something for Melania too at this point.
So you think Barron Trump is being held in what, captivity of some sort?
They gave their kid COVID. They gave their kid COVID. So yeah, he needs to be freed. Bless his little heart. He's still a teenager.
Yeah, but seriously, I do think she's probably going to be filing divorce papers pretty quickly after November 4th. Because of course, I'm assuming that Trump will lose, and I'm sure she is as well.
Yes, he's going to lose. We have to speak it into existence. We got to speak it into existence.
Yep. All right. Oh, also, I forgot. So not long ago, she had those secret. I know Rob B mentioned the fight. She had that porn hooker Twitter fight.
Well,
with
she
Stormy Daniels, Trump's mistress.
She didn't take money, so technically not a hooker. Didn't take money, so technically not a hooker.
But porn pictures.
Yeah, who was actually naked. So. I hope she's healthy, but like I say, and I know COVID gives her.
We do hope she's healthy. Even though I'm not a fan, I hope she's healthy. I hope poor Barron is healthy, and is being taken good care of by those nannies over there in the White House. But they have to do better. They need to do better.
As much as I hate Trump, I don't hate Melania.
No.
I don't like her.
I don't like her, but I don't hate her.
All right. So let me tell our viewers what Truth, Lies, and Shenanigans is all about. We'll be sharing our truths and opinions with you, calling out those lies, and pointing out the ridiculous shenanigans going on like we already have with Melania. But most importantly on this show, we try to have some fun with shenanigans of our own. One rule for the host: if you're caught cussing, there's a $10 penalty. If you guys are caught cussing 3 times in the same show, and our viewers will call you out.
He wrote me beautiful letters.
You'll be writing a love letter.
And they're great letters.
It's Trump.
We fell in love.
Not that matters so much to Rob B. It should be a funny letter anyway. But Rob B is doing great. He hasn't cussed yet on the show.
Yeah, I think you guys are in collusion. I think, initially I thought Rob was on my side, but now, I see the bald heads, the glasses. You guys are both males. Yeah. I'm on my own over here.
Who said that? Come closer.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get on to our hot topic.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
This is the way hot topics work. I'll pick one of our hosts. They will let you know if their topic is a truth, lie, or shenanigans. Then we'll talk about it until we see our friend Gingy, who will let us know time is up. Then we'll be looking online for your questions and comments, and we'll talk about it just a little bit more. Once we're done, we'll go into the next host and their topic. We're going to start off today with Liz E. Liz E. Is this a truth, lie, or shenanigan?
This is a truth. Again, I always get the truth and the shenanigans. But this is a little bit of both, but it's definitely truth. For those of you who are not in the know, but also those of you who have been following, on Monday, we began the Supreme Court confirmation hearings for Amy Coney Barrett. So she is in line. She is Trump's nominee to take over, to replace, if you will, the late Ruth Bader Ginsberg, who passed away a little over a month ago now, if you will. So the confirmation hearings started on Monday. They've been very testy. They've been very intense. The Democrats, even though the Democrats have at this point no chance of winning, against her being nominated, but they have hit her with a lot of questions, and some of her questions or some of her answers to those questions have been a little suspect. Now, for those of you who don't know who she is is a lawyer. She has been on staff with the University of Notre Dame. She's very conservative. She is anti-Affordable Care Act. She's anti-abortion. She is anti-LGBTQ. Like, she's very conservative. She is also kind of against a lot of women's issues, if you will. But specifically, she was asked pointed questions this week about recent events in the United States as it regards to social injustice, if you will. So the first question she was asked that people took note of was in regards to George Floyd. We all know that George Floyd was murdered by the police in Minnesota back in May. So this was her response to the George Floyd question.
Have you seen the George Floyd video?
Given that I have 2 Black children, that was very, very personal for my family. And my 17-year-old daughter, Vivian, who's adopted from Haiti, we wept together. My daughter, Juliet, who's 10, I had to try to explain some of this to them. I mean, my children, to this point in their lives, have had the benefit of growing up in a cocoon where they have not yet experienced hatred or violence.
So my question to my gents here, first and foremost, was that a legitimate answer to that question, or was she pimping out her Black kids? Let's go to Rob.
This one I had to really think about, just because, for those who don't know, I have 2 children from from a Jamaican woman. So my kids are darker than I am, and I've had to deal with racially sensitive issues from an outsider perspective in dealing with the kids. As a parent, I can appreciate how difficult that would have been to have that conversation with the 10-year-old. To say that the 17-year-old has lived in a cocoon and hasn't really experienced hatred and stuff, okay, that's kind of a suspect statement, but it doesn't change the fact that it was an awful traumatic event, and that at that time she had to play the role of a mother. Does it lend itself well to political discourse and image? Sure, but I hope that she didn't set out to adopt Black children specifically for career gains. That would be pretty, that'd just be unethical, but I think it was sincere.
Also, okay, yeah. So my thoughts are, there was some sincerity to it, but I didn't particularly like the concept of they were in a cocoon, so they hadn't experienced hatred and violence. Because if you're watching TV, you're experiencing hatred and violence to people of color. If you're watching movies, you're experiencing hatred and violence to people of color. So I didn't like the fact that she's talking. Maybe she felt as though she's protected them from that. But the images every day that they're looking at and they're seeing, she hasn't really protected them as well as she thinks. That's why the George Floyd, if they did wait, which they probably did, I'm sure her daughters felt that because of the experiences they've had that maybe she's not aware of. But with that being said, is she pimping her kids out? I don't know that she's pimping them out. I know that the GOP is. I know that was certainly played a role
Yeah,
into why they picked
yeah.
her. It made her a better pick. But I don't think she adopted her kids with the anticipation of, becoming a
Oh,
Supreme Court justice. I don't think and the question was kind of leading to that. So, go ahead, Lizzie.
I mean, I think it's the same with Mitt Romney. Like, people make comments about Mitt Romney because he has um, an adopted. If I have the story correct, he has an adopted black grandchild, and people were poking fun of that particular truth about him. And I agree with you, Neo. I don't think that she, adopted these two kids, especially since, her oldest of the two adopted kids is 17. I don't think she adopted these two kids with the intent of using them as leverage or political gain. However, words mean a lot. you know the way we frame things, especially in a public setting, it means a lot. And so for her to answer that question and immediately go to, given the fact that I have two black kids, reminds me of, well, I can't be racist because I have a black friend.
Mm,
Like, you're not answering the question, if you will. Like, the question was, how did you respond to George Floyd? And you really didn't give your response. You initially threw your kids into our face.
true.
So if you didn't have these two black kids, would your response have been different from a humanity
Yeah,
standpoint? And then
and
what about,
that's
the other children in your family? Like, this, I understand what she's saying, that she has to frame it differently as the white mother of a black child, that she has to have difficult conversations with her black children. But in the same respect, you also have white children. And so you have to talk about also their response, and again, answer the question: what was your response to what
mhm.
you saw that happened to George Floyd? And so that's why I was just like, okay, here we go again, here we go again, here we go again. But no, I don't think her intention in adopting those children at all was for any type of political gain, anything that she thought that she could, like, use or pull out, as um, a get out of jail free card, if you
Hmm.
will, in the
Yeah.
future. I just think, we need to, in 2020, we have to be better about how we speak on these issues in
Mhm.
public. So that goes to my next point, in that she was also taken to task this week in the confirmation hearings about her response, or her defending racial slurs. So there was an incident that arose. I'm not quite sure what year this happened. Trying to look this up. But there was a workplace discrimination lawsuit by a woman named Terry Smith, a Black employee of the Illinois Department of Transportation, who sued the agency after he was fired. I said a woman, it's a man. Among the discriminatory actions that Smith alleges the IDOT allowed in what he considered a hostile workplace were being addressed to by the N word, frequently by his supervisor. Now, Barrett joined a unanimous three-judge decision dismissing Smith's discrimination suit. She didn't think that that was just cause, him being repeatedly called the N word by his supervisor was worthy of a discrimination suit. So it begs the question, what about your Black children that you were so quick to point out in one instance as it related to George Floyd? Do you not think that they would have just cause if one of their teachers was constantly referring to them as the N word? If one of their supervisors was constantly referring to them as the N word? Neo?
Yeah, I think that um, she doesn't have I mean, just her comment alone about her children being in a cocoon. I don't think she has a good sense of what it is to be black in America. I don't think she has an understanding of what that is. And you would think that when she's saying cocoon, that she's protecting them, but I still feel like she's looking at it from her perspective. Um, and I don't feel like she's really putting herself in her children's shoes. Um, I think like Rob B has spoken often about his children, and when you listen to Rob B talk about his children and his children's experiences, he's often talking in a way where he's viewing it from their point of view. And I don't think she's
Their
looking
lens.
at it right. I don't think she's looking at it like that. I think she's looking at it as her own point of view and what she sees and what she believes they're dealing with, um, as a white mother of black children. And so you know, I don't know that it plays a role in her comments or her thoughts on using racial slurs. And I feel like there's some ignorance here, and I don't think her having black children, brings a light to that ignorance. I do believe that in the future, going forward, there may be some opportunities because her children are about to be faced with some serious things. Being in the limelight as the way they are, they're no longer going to be in a cocoon. And the way she put them out there, they're definitely not going to be in a cocoon. So she's going to have to empathize with their position. Robbie?
Robbie?
Yeah, and that's it. That's what I found really funny was that in her comments about this particular case, uh, she was very dismissive of the use of the N word in the workplace in the context that it was being used in the workplace. Her comments were to the effect that it wasn't being used in such a way that it would impact his performance or those communications. It was just it was flippant. So like to further illustrate what Neo was saying, that there's a there's an ignorance there, a profound ignorance, and you have to have that willingness to really see it from the other perspective. Did she empathize with her kids? Did her heart break with her children? More than likely, because it was very tragic. I know that I had to talk to my daughter about it, and that was very difficult, very challenging. But yeah, it's there's definitely something that's not registering. It's definitely something that's not registering.
Yeah.
There seems to be, like, I agree with you, Rob. I think that there's a disconnect, if you will. And I don't necessarily think it's just about race, because my last point is going to be about LGBTQ. But I think it's something that we often see with people who are on the far conservative right. Like, they don't necessarily consider things outside of their experience. It's always seen through their lens, and then everyone else outside of that just has to adjust. And I'm not even sure if she's cognizant of it. It sounds like she isn't. It definitely sounded like she wasn't cognizant of it. So my last point, yesterday she was called out in the congressional hearings, in the confirmation hearings, about her reference to homosexuals, to people in the LGBTQ community, as having a sexual preference, if you will. And she was immediately called out about that. That term is a source of contention. And in her defense, she immediately corrected herself. Once it was pointed out that that's problematic, she tried to correct herself. But then it begs the question, but do you not understand why even using that, especially someone who's going to be responsible for policy and laws in this country, as it relates to this group, do you understand why people might be cautious with you so flippantly using that term and having to be corrected in front of Congress and being reminded what it actually means?
And,
Rob?
and let me jump
Oh,
in. So,
no, you can go.
I got to be honest. It's personally, it's hard to keep up with what is socially acceptable and what's not from, month to month, year to year. I actually, didn't know that referring to sexual preference was a problem until, you brought my attention to it. So I don't know that I'm going to hold that against her. I don't think I would
But
hold that against her.
this isn't anything new. This is something that has been,
It's new to me, so I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like her, it's new to her.
If
but
someone
she
exactly
is,
lives at that extreme end of the bubble, then even for someone that I consider myself to be enlightened, and you had to educate me prior to the show as to why this was considered offensive. So for someone who lives at the right end of the spectrum, I can see where that might fall off her radar, and I give her props for at least correcting herself when it was brought to her
I
attention.
agree with that.
Which is, to me, that's the mark of someone who can at least learn a little bit, but she does have a lot of far right ideas that need to be corrected.
And that's what I was going to say. Let me just get my jimmy in here very quickly.
All right, time's up. Well, go ahead, make the point real quick. I did have one last point I wanted to make too.
That in itself, to me, though, is very scary because, again, we're talking about someone who is going to be one of the next Supreme Court justices. And even before that, a judge who is responsible for law and legislation in this country, who can be making determinations about the LGBT community. So for you not to understand that to say sexual preference means that you are agreeing that these people are willingly choosing to be gay, to be bi, to be whatever, also means that they can choose not to be. Therefore, they don't deserve equal rights and protections. That's scary to me.
I can see the fear in that. Let me just get some comments online. Mike Winter says she didn't apologize for what she said either. Rupka asked, do black people have to justify themselves by saying they have black children? Because white people tend to justify, saying I have black kids.
That's a very good question.
Not that Rob's never done that. So that's not a generalization.
Rob's never done it to us.
He's never.
You've never done that to us. But also, I don't think I have black friends who answer a question first. Well, because I have black children. Now you might see, as the conversation goes on, you might see black mothers of black sons say, I have a black son, so I am concerned. But it's not in a way that is like, okay, well, like I said, I have black friends, so I'm not racist. It's never in that same vein. You don't get that same feel from it. So I think, and again, I don't know this woman very well.
I don't either.
I
That's
just
one
think
thing.
I think that there, like Rob said, I think there's a lot of growth. There's a lot of growth.
I mean, I want to say, so last time we talked about the SCOTUS and the nomination, I think was when we were talking Ruth Bader Ginsberg, I think episode 48. And I had, in that episode, I said Trump would. Huh?
I said, look at you dropping the episode.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to. Actually, you know why I remembered it is because we had that post.
Technical difficulties.
No. All right. So anyway, I said Trump would need to would really have to put up a moderate. He would have to put up a moderate. And to be honest, I think he put up one of the best options we could hope for from him. Now I don't know her very well, like you said. I don't know if she's going to vote or along the lines that I would want or that she agrees with my things. But I feel like her record alone, I mean, she's not experienced enough, obviously, but her record alone, I think that she is a decent candidate. And I think that if this were a different time and we weren't dealing with Trump and we weren't 19 days from the election, I think she would pass easily with bipartisan support, actually.
Well, one, she's only been a federal judge for 2 years.
Right.
But also, I don't like, she's a decent candidate, but I don't think she would be the number one candidate.
No, certainly not.
I
She's certainly not the one that they would have normally picked. Because right now, because it's 19 days from the election, they had to pick somebody who could appeal to independents and moderates and to women. And to women.
And to women, yeah.
And I do think she has some, I don't think she's going to be totally against the ideals that we may want. I don't think she's going to be totally against them. I think it does say something that she has black children because there will, like I said, there will come times where she's going to need to empathize with their situation. So anyway, unless there was anything else, I will move on. That was a good topic, Lizzie. Thank you for that
That
one.
was good. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
So
the notorious ACB. Thank the notorious ACB. Amy Coney Barrett. Yes.
all right. So the next one is mine. Where are we? Let me get to mine. All right. So, all right. So this is gonna be a fun one. We are talking. This is Truth, Lies, or Shenanigans. We are talking. This is definitely shenanigans. Um. So, actually, I'm gonna skip. I have to do something. Let's, Rob B. Why don't you go ahead and do yours first?
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right.
Go ahead.
So, what I chose for a topic this week is that there is a hearing happening at the Vatican, and this is based on some improprieties, some shenanigans that happened from 2012 to 2017 specifically, right? So the two priests are going on trial at the Vatican's criminal tribunal this week. And why this is significant is because there's been some major reform this year in Vatican law with the new Pope, biggest reform since 1984. So in this particular instance, they're really holding Pope Francis to task because he had made a speech where he had in December of 2017, where he said that they must adhere to a policy of zero tolerance for clergy who are sexually abused by children. And he begged for forgiveness for a sin that shames us, of course, referring to the church. So whistleblowers came out shortly after that and really put him to task. And with the revisions made in March of 2020, instead of just facing a regular Vatican inquest and a Vatican tribunal or papal tribunal, they're actually being brought forth on criminal charges because it happened within the city state of Vatican City. So now it's not just the church that's going into this, there's an actual penal system. We know that this has been an ongoing issue. The church covers up, they relocate priests because they invest a considerable amount of money into training these people and then they want them to go out and do their ministry. So I guess the big one for me is it's happening in Vatican City. Is this the type of reform that you think is going to stick, or is this just more posturing on the part of the church? The church has a tendency to put on these shows, and a lot of these cases get dropped simply because it's not done properly. So, Liz,
I
I,
think
I
it's
know that you feel
posturing.
strongly.
I think it's posturing. First and foremost, this is not a big story in the United States right now. No one's talking about this. No, this is not on anyone's radar. And I think for a lot of people, because at certain times over the past decade, over the past 15, 20 years, this has been a big story. I think a lot of people, specifically Catholics, are tired of it. I think they want it to go away. I think they want to sweep it under the rug. And so for it to come back again, it's like, okay, well, whatever. It's just, we've been there, done that. And it's happening in Vatican City. It's not really one of, the priests that we need to be concerned about right now, even though this priest has been accused of a lot of atrocious and disgusting behavior. I think that there's still this element of let's just cover it up and move on. Like we've given out these hundreds of millions of dollars in lawsuits or whatever. What more do they want? And the answer to that is we want accountability. We want people to go to jail. We want acknowledgement. We want to not have priests like we talked about earlier, Rob. We want to not have priests shuffled from one parish to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And so I do think this is posturing because no one else is talking about this. Like before you presented this as a topic, and I keep up with the news all the time. I didn't know this was going on. And so then I had to do my own research and, govern myself accordingly about what was happening. And in the article that you provided, there is a video clip within that article about the bishop who is in charge of this case, who was in charge of this one particular priest who is accused of sexual improprieties against young boys. And he was responsible for reinstating, if you will, this particular priest, allowing him to come back into a parish, allowing him to continue to counsel young people, to continue to perform baptisms and have all of these interactions with young people. And he made no excuses, no apologies for it, because he said, well, an investigation was done and he was cleared. And so I often say, where is the outrage? You're supposed to be a man of the cloth. You're supposed to be a man of faith. You're supposed to be, one of God's earthly prophets, if you will. What would Jesus do in this situation? You got a lot of people running around with these, WWJD
You just hit
bracelets.
us
What would
with
Jesus be doing?
what would Jesus do?
And so, yeah, Rob, I think it's posturing, and it's sad. It's really sad, because I don't think the victims in these cases have fully gotten justice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They haven't fully gotten justice. Everyone wants to sweep it under the rug. And so, good for the Vatican, like you said, to at least be acknowledging this, if you will, at this particular time. But here in America, ain't nobody talking about this,
Yeah.
and it's sad.
I didn't
It's
hear about
sad.
it either. I had no idea. You guys know how I feel about abuse of children, so it's for me, it's like one of the most egregious things you can do outside of murder. So,
Mhm.
this I'm glad they're doing something, even if it is posturing. But it's never going to be enough to me. It's never going to be enough to resolve what they've done to these kids and the way they've hid it. And to be honest, it's not like it just happened over the last 20, 30 years. This has been happening for centuries.
Centuries.
Centuries. This has just been a way of life for these Catholic priests. So, so sure they were sweeping it under the rug because that's what they've done. That's all they've done for
Mhm.
centuries. So, um, like I said, I'm happy that it's come to light and it's finally stopping. And hopefully over time it'll never happen again. I can't say never, but um,
And that's why this case is so significant, because this is being tried outside of the standard structure where we have seen the systemic just cover up. And that's it. People have been moved from parish to state to different countries. They've moved around the globe because they put so much money into training these individuals. They want to make sure that they get the most out of their product. They really do, out of their ministry. So now that it's being tried in a criminal court as well as the papal court, because Vatican City is its own city state with its own set of laws, and yeah, a lot of it is steeped in church tradition. But now this is being finally tried outside of that because there was a criminal act. And I think that we've seen a lot of that complacency occur, and we've seen a lot of cases get dismissed because you often find inconsistencies are noted for one of the major reasons for dismissals. And people who suffer trauma may not recall it correctly at times. There will be inconsistencies in the story because they're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with a lot emotionally. And a lot of these investigators, if you will, are not properly trained to investigate child sex crimes.
mhm.
Or the final report is being presented in a very biased way. And it's very important to note that the head of these inquests aren't the actual decision makers. They're just receiving the information and a recommendation from people who are doing the investigation. So I'm hoping, really hoping, that there will be some criminal charges and that there will be some damages paid out to these victims. And once the church starts paying out damages, like Boy Scouts of America is losing tons, they're losing out tons, they're liquidating huge assets and parks and camps because they have huge damages to pay. And until the church has damages to pay and they have to change their business practices, it's not going to change, unfortunately. But finally hearing it in a criminal court rather than a church court, that gives me hope that we are finally going to see some change and some revision in that system.
Right, let me get to these.
I have one quick question for you, Rob. So, do
Yeah.
you think under the previous Pope, Pope Benedict, that this tribunal, this criminal court case would have taken place?
You know what? Each pope enacts the set of rules as they can. Pope John Paul II had a very special place in my heart because he acknowledged and accepted Darwin's theory of evolution. It's just like, what? The Catholic Church accepts it? Your scientists looked at it and it's good science? Hey, of course, with an asterisk. Somebody put that in motion. But it's nice to see that reform is happening, and Pope Francis, although I don't adhere to the church, I have to say that he seems to have a very loving message compared to his predecessors, compared to Pope Palpatine.
Palpatine.
Thank you.
Yeah, I caught it. Took me a second, but I caught it. All right, let me get
Took
these
me
comments
2
online.
seconds.
We do have
Took
some
me 2
comments
seconds.
online. So Rupka says, the priest should face higher penalties just like cops should be. They are there to protect and serve with God. I've been reading the Bible, and they would burn just like that altar. Mike Winter says, I heard about it, but because of Alf dominating most of the news, they hadn't focused on it.
For those of you who don't know, when Mike Winter refers to Alf, he's talking about President Donald J. Trump.
He does look like Alf.
That's Alf.
I wonder if the youngins know who Alf is, though.
Probably not. Probably not.
He also said Boy Scouts of America needs to keep paying all of their gay hating and they had all those little boy complaints that the Catholic Church suffered through.
Yep.
So great comments online. All right, so I am ready this time.
You ready, Neo? You ready?
I'm all set. So my topic is truth, lies, or shenanigans. It's definitely shenanigans, straight shenanigans. All right. Not that we needed a report to know this, but the organization Time's Up Now released a report just prior to the VP debate last week. The report analyzed 2 weeks of news coverage after Kamala Harris was selected as Biden's running mate. They compared that coverage with VP candidates Tim Kaine and Mike Pence in 2016. All right, so what it found that 1/4 of coverage of Harris included racist or sexist tropes, such as describing the senator as too uncooperative or too ambitious. Now, a whopping 61% of coverage surrounding Harris mentioned her gender or race, compared to just 5% of Pence and Kaine in 2016. 5% versus 61%. Now, as far as racist, misogynistic language, the angry black woman trope was used 13% of the time, but that was largely fueled by Trump calling Harris nasty, mad, mean. And of course, they talked a bit about her birtherism, the birtherism conspiracy theories. Now, overall, Harris's ancestry dominated 36% of the coverage. Now, in contrast, Kaine and Pence's religious backgrounds were more heavily discussed in 2016. That was around 20%. Now, if you can guess how much for Harris, 1%. 1%. Now, accomplishment. Let's talk accomplishments in career. 35% of the coverage of Pence and Kaine. 35%. For Kamala, 31% of it talked about her actual performance. Now, 6% of that coverage used language that over-sexualized her or underqualified her merit. All right. So my question to you is this because of Trump and his normalization of racism and sexism? Or is this just the nature of being a woman of color running for office, regardless of the Trump dynamic? And I'll start with Rob B on this
I don't think it has anything to do with Trump. I think it's just where we are. It's a snapshot of North America. It's because I know that in Canada, even female leadership hasn't happened in quite some time. We have a lot of MPs and representation who are female, but to say at top position, no. We had, I think it was Elizabeth May. Oh, shoot, I'm having a gap here and I'm talking off the top of my head, but we did have one female prime minister for whether a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and that was just an extenuating circumstance. And but I think that the status quo feels threatened by it. Even when we had, when Hillary was on the bill, the fact that she was a woman was brought up over and over, and she was attacked on that front. And I don't know why gender is even an issue. It should be based on her qualifications and her experience. It just blows me. It blows me away, but it doesn't surprise me that it's still happening. But I don't think it's a Trump thing. I think it's just more an indictment of North American culture.
Now, I want to point out one thing. This wasn't just Fox News. They did various media networks. So we're talking CNN, we're talking Washington Post, we're talking all across. So it wasn't just like Fox News talking bad about her or focusing on her sex and her race. Lizzie?
I just want to remind our viewing audience of these couple of quick points. The most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman. And this is a perfect example of that. No one, when Hillary was running for president back in 2015, 2016, if you will, there was a lot of things said about her as a woman, as a white woman. The country does not like the Clintons, and I kept telling people that. But never once did people bring up her racial makeup, her pedigree, her genealogy, ask her to prove where her parents were from, where they were born, if she was legitimately a part of this particular race or that particular race, or even an American, if you will. Never once were people talking about her attitude and if she was an angry white woman, or did Trump call her a monster, which Trump called Kamala Harris a monster not even a week ago. So this is a perfect example of what Black women, what critics, what scholars of Black history, Black culture have been saying for decades. Black women, especially Black women who try to exert any type of power, any type of confidence, you will, in America, they're going to be shot down. They're going to be torn down, torn apart, overly analyzed, and to the point where it's like, okay, but what about the issues? I remember, in watching all of the post-debate analysis about the vice presidential debate on Wednesday, and some people were talking about how Kamala was very poised to a fault. Other people were talking about how she was too aggressive. And so as a Black woman, she's damned if she does. Oh my God, there were all of these memes. They did like point by point by point by point documentation of her facial expressions. But it acknowledges
which
the
were
fact
iconic,
that
by the way. I just want to point out they were funny.
That's her squint game is strong.
But to be honest with you, they were pretty tame. Like, can you imagine me on that panel?
Yes, I
My
can
kids,
imagine you.
continuously mansplaining and talking down to me. And I've had supervisors like that.
I think you would have been
where I've
Trump-like. He wouldn't have been able to say a
check
word.
myself. I've had to check myself and my facial expression because you don't want to get fired, you know. But this is just a perfect example of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Like, in one respect, you are not being aggressive enough. You're seen as weak. But then on the flip side, people are saying, oh, well, you are too aggressive. You're the angry Black woman. You have an attitude problem. You're overly aggressive. You can't be trusted. And so for women of color, particularly Black women in this country, because it might, and I keep emphasizing this country, because we have Rob on the panel, and it might be different in Canada, but in this country, Black women, we are on the bottom of the totem pole in terms of how people view us, in terms of how people respond to us, in terms of how people socialize us, talk about us. I was just on a particular website, and I'm going to call y'all out, the Go-Go Report, a particular website on Facebook the other day, which is supposed to be, emphasizing and hyping up go-go music in the DC DMV area. I would say 60% of those, and this is a website that is promoted and that was started by Black men. Most of the people that post on this website are Black men. 60% of the posts on this website are mocking, shaming, degrading Black women. Has nothing to do with go-go. Nothing to do with go-go. Shaming, degrading Kamala Harris. Every single post you see on this particular website and other websites like them about Kamala Harris isn't talking about her achievements. It's talking about the fact that, well, she's a half-breed, she's biracial, she married a white man, she's not really one of us. And so it's just like, can we just breathe
It is
and
frustrating.
be as Black women in this country? Like, it's just, so yeah, I noticed what you were saying. I totally started following the points that you are making in this topic, Neo, from the moment she even threw her hat into the ring to be president, even before she was added to the Biden's ticket. When she was a candidate for the presidency, I noticed it.
Yeah.
When she ripped Biden a new one back in the debates for presidency, they called her all kinds of names. So yeah, it's the norm in this country. It's the norm.
Okay, so
And even now, when I'm dancing to Gingy, it's like, she's over sexualizing everything, Black girl. Oh my God.
all right, so my
Even
thoughts
on
are,
my
I just want to
shoulders.
get my thoughts in. So I mean, my thoughts are that at this point, I think it's both. So I think that she would have gotten this regardless. I mean, they would have talked about her race, her sexuality, and I mean, I am surprised that religion hasn't been a bigger issue. But I, I'm not surprised. I think no matter what Black woman came to when Obama ran, it was the same thing. When Hillary ran, it was all about her being a woman. Just all it's about is differences. But I think in this Trump world, they are bigger. It's more intense. So we're in this Trump world, they are really. I think that they're trying hard not to. It's funny actually when you kind of watch like Fox News and stuff like that. And I saw a comment from Mike Winter. The facial expressions were criticized relentlessly by Fox Business. But if you watch it, because I told you I do watch Fox News to get a different perspective from time to time. They are trying hard not to attack her for being Black. I mean, there are some that really don't care, like the Tucker Carlsons of the world, and so there are some people that'll do it regardless. But it's really interesting to watch that dynamic. But like I said, I think it was inevitable. But in this Trump world, it's worse.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you have one
So
more comment, Lizzie, real quick.
Well, I actually
You're way
agree
out of
with
time.
you on that. So there was, in terms of Fox News, because they have taken a lot of hits about their overt racism or their disdain for people in the Black community, if you will. And so a couple of days ago, I think it was during the vice presidential debates. There's this one particular pastor, Black pastor, Reverend Daryl Scott, who is a Trump supporter, who is anti everything on the left. So as he's commenting on the debates and talking post debate to Fox News, so he's talking to Laura Ingraham, and he said that he thought Kamala was Hillary in blackface.
Kamala.
I was excited, upset. Forgive me. He thought Kamala, a Black man said this, he thought Kamala was Hillary in blackface. He called her the Black Hillary, said that she was shucking and jiving. And so Laura Ingraham, when he said that, Laura Ingraham, Fox News reporter Laura Ingraham, when he said that, was speechless. She was like, oh, well, I don't know what you mean by that. Like, so yeah, I think Fox is kind of in, heaven forbid, I'm like speaking up for Fox News. But in that particular instance, they were just like, oh my God, what is happening here? This isn't us. This is a Black guy, a coon, as some of us would call him. This is a Black guy.
Hey, didn't we say that was, oh, yeah.
$10.
$10. All right.
$10. But Fox News was just like, okay, we don't want any part of this. We are not likening Kamala Harris to any notion of blackface. And that just goes to show you how deep rooted this issue is in the fact that she is a woman of color who could potentially be a part of the White House.
All right. Let me get these comments. We only have 5 minutes left. So let me get some comments. Daria Winter said the degrading comments about Michelle Obama as First Lady, blatant and overt comments are racist. Rivka says, educated melanin, like our Professor Lizzie.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But I don't have much melanin this evening with these lights.
Mike Winter says Tucker and Laura and Jeannie don't care. They will go there on everything, but use their code words for Black. That's very true. That's the one group of people who really don't care. All right, guys, that's it for Hot Topics. Great topic, good discussion.
Lies, shenanigans.
All right, and we got to close it out. We've got like 4 minutes left. Game show time. All right. So today's game is Truth or Lie Bible Trivia. We'll go round robin style. I'll ask you a question.
Rob, which one of us is going to fail first?
This was Rob B's fault anyway, because he had the whole Catholic Catholic Church topic. So you'll tell me if it's a truth or a lie. If you get the answer right, you get a point. Person with the most points wins the game, and the winner will get the final thought at the end of the show. We're all participating, so let's go ahead and get started. So this is a sample question. Samson asked for an understanding heart/mind to judge God's people. Truth or lie?
Lie.
You got lie? False?
I got lie. I got false.
That is right. All right. So let's start with Lizzie. Truth or lie? Joseph's sons were Simeon and Levi.
Lie. False.
All right. That is correct. All right, let me give you your point. All right.
I figured that. I was like, okay, Joseph's son, Mary and Joseph, Jesus. Okay, so.
All right, Rob B. Noah lived 120 years after the flood.
I gotta say true.
True. False. Noah lived false. That is false. It doesn't give me the correct answer though. But that is
I can tell you that he was 900 when he built the ark.
And still procreating. Super sperm.
And 900. All right, this is for me. The 10 virgins took scrolls with them in the parable. I'm going with false. All right, that is true. That's correct. All right, give me a point. Oh, I might win another one today. I'm on the right track. All right, Lizzie. Jesus resurrected a widow's son in the town of Nain. Or Nain?
True.
Okay, let's see. That is true. That is correct. All right, let me give you a
I
point.
remember the story vividly. True.
Okay. Rob B. Israelites made a golden calf as an idol in the wilderness.
True.
Ooh.
Correct. That is true.
Piss God off. Piss God off.
Golden calf. That golden calf.
All right. Gideon was a king. I'm going to go with true. No, it's false. Gideon was not a king. All right.
Gideon was on Criminal Minds. Gideon was an original cast.
All right, Lizzie, you're in the lead. One more point, you win the game. So let's see. Oh, yeah, because Rob and I can't even catch up. So let's see. Aaron's wife was Elisheba?
True.
Oh, correct. Good job, Lizzie. Lizzie
I remember
wins
the
the
Sheba.
game.
I remember the Sheba from the Bible. So
Queen of Sheba, yeah. All right, let's go. Good job, Lizzie.
don't y'all start thinking that I'm, not a heathen. I'm still a heathen. I'm still anti everything religious. So
Everything, huh? Okay.
everything.
All right, let's get in some shout outs. All right, Lizzie.
Shout out to our audience, our viewing audience. Thanks for sticking with us this evening. Hopefully you will join us back again on, what day is this? Wednesday? Sunday, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on all of our social media channels. We want to hear from you. We want to talk to you, and we want to engage with you with all of our truth, lies, and shenanigans.
All right, Robbie.
Shout out to our audience, those who have tuned in and stuck with us live. Thank you so much for sticking through the technical difficulties. Special thank you to Neo for working out a lot of the technical difficulties along the way and sweating it out, and then putting on a show without being all sweaty. So
I did pretty good. It's not too sweaty. That's just a little oil from my oily skin. All right. My shout out goes to Deja. He was very helpful tonight. If you're watching the YouTube channel, that Yanni Storm is our production assistant. So thank you, Deja, for all your help getting that together. All right, so that's my shout outs for today. Thanks, guys. I do want to shout out. We have Mike Winter, Daria Winter, and Rutka stuck with us on the YouTube chat. So thanks for that, guys. All right, let's close it out. All right. I'd like to thank all of you guys because we had a great show. We hope you maybe learned something new, gained a new perspective, or even got something off your chest. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe at TLS Live Show. And if you missed any of today's show and our Facebookers as well, you'll be able to rewatch shortly after the show ends. Or you can check out our clips online on YouTube and Facebook tomorrow. Or you can also, don't forget, you can also listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Google, Alexa. You name it, you should be able to find us. Just ask for the Truth, Lies, Shenanigans podcast. Or simply go to tlsshow.com. Make sure you join our next live show, Sunday, 4 p.m., where we'll have book author Jeff Pearlman, who recently released his latest book, Three Ring Circus, about Shaq, Kobe, and Phil Jackson years. with the Lakers recently becoming world champions again, should be an incredible discussion. And he'll be taking your questions and comments as well live. So our winner for today's show is Miss Liz E. What is our final thought?
I mean, I'm thinking I like this YouTube, Twitter only format. It means Neo isn't cheating as much. I have a fair shot to actually win a game. So, let's do this. No, seriously, fans of Truth Lies Shenanigans, thank you once again for tuning in. Please tune in on Sunday, especially all of you Laker fans out there. Author Jeff Pearlman, author of Showtime, and now Three Ring Circus, is going to come and tell us all the secrets about the Kobe, Shaq, and Phil years. So you don't want to miss that. Sunday, 4 p.m. Be here or don't be anywhere.
All right. Oh, and if you're on YouTube right now, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can catch us if you miss something happens with Facebook in the future. All right, guys, hit that subscribe button.
Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth.
On November 3rd, 86 out of 99 state legislative chambers are holding elections.
There are 70 million young eligible voters, the largest and most diverse generation in our country's history.
We have the power to shape our country and communities,
but we
need all of us.
So picture this.
On November 3rd, we choose.
We choose who sits in 435 seats in the House of Representatives.
We choose 24 senators and 13 governors.
We choose the sheriffs, the DAs, and the judges too.
With 70 million young eligible voters, we choose to align a vision too humane to be political.
And make the future prouder than it's ever been.
So when the alarm goes off on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, and you arrive at your polling site, to see freedom clocking 2-hour waits.
Vote anyway. When the machines stop working and your job starts calling because American democracy is running late again, vote anyway.
Your vote is bigger than the color of your state.
It is a revolution in motion.
The moment you took to the streets and to the screens to share your outrage,
you recommitted to our collective dream, which requires that you lift it out of hashtags and into DC and your communities.
Because remember, this is the same year that brought a pandemic which disproportionately killed Black and brown Americans and indigenous people.
The same 2020 that took the breath of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Nina Pop, and Dominique Fells.
So on November 3rd, 2020,
know that voter suppression will be present.
Vote anyway. You will be discouraged.
Vote anyway.
Tuesday will be imperfect.
Vote anyway.
When every headline is shouting democracy and duty in swing states,
you will be asked to believe in a dream that never came to fruition for every American. And despite your best reason,
you must uphold it. Because we can't vote a world into existence that we can't first imagine.
The American dream is ours for the making.
Come alive for ancestors who need you to finish their story.
A story that begs for atonement.
Cast your promise.
Cast your promise. Cast your vote.
Cast your vote.
But vote.